You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So I learned something new today, and it's why my little title is the way it is. When new territory is discovered, the area in which the first Catholic to go there leaves from gets jurisdiction over the area. So technically, when we sent people to the moon, that made the Bishop of Orlando the leader of the Catholics on the moon. Now, until enough people live on the moon that they could set up their own leadership, that means the same guy who's in charge of Disney World is also in charge of the moon when it comes to talking to God. I just want to be that guy's boss. I would like to be Space Pope over all of space, so that I could bring Pluto back as a planet, because I really do feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson screwed that one up, and I will say it to his face. I swear to God.
So here
Welcome in, everybody.
Pluto is not a planet.
It's not.
It's a dog.
Nice.
Not technically incorrect. Okay, Sean has joined us. We were told that Sean was having bike issues, which were actually mic issues, but it was confusing enough.
Yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
No,
you.
we can't. Sorry.
All right. Well, this thing's for now. Okay.
Sean's the only one who is untitled, which feels appropriate.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know I could do that.
It's new.
I haven't taught him the thing yet.
It's new. Anyway, welcome into In Stores this week, where we talk about books that are in stores this week, and also apparently other mishigas like how Catholics are dissecting space, because it's been on my mind since I read it this morning. Like, anyway, yeah. So welcome in, everybody. Should we get started with our books?
I just noticed that he's wearing a North Carolina hat, and he's wearing a North Carolina hat,
Uh-huh.
and I'm wearing the hat from the team that plays in North Carolina. Did you not get the memo?
My hat of the Chinese space balloon has not arrived yet. That's the only thing that has happened in Carolina that I'm even remotely interested in.
Have you met Kyle? He's a non-follower. He does his own thing.
Also, this was the hat that was here and smelled the least bad. Somehow, all of my other hats that I normally keep here have made their way home. And I have to bring them all back, but I always forget.
Well, I do have good news. We're close.
Ooh.
Not sure how I got my dice bag on there, but
I thought you were just going to sew the dice bag in so I had easy access when I needed it.
oh, there you go.
Just have to go like this to get my D20 out.
Yeah, so it's bigger than the last one. Should be done soon.
Yay! You know I'm wearing that on the show, right? The first week.
Well, I would hope so.
I don't care if it's 107 here. I'm wearing that on the show. You just see me sweating profusely because my head's all warm. John Spilios, what's up? Jeff Wedding, thank you for commemorating my art on the wall. I appreciate it. So
One day, Jeff, why didn't you just change his name to Jeff Divorce?
Oh. Wow. It's not nice.
Oh, geez.
All right. Before we get into it, I did want to mention there are two books that we had been reading previous that we did not read this time that I think are worth taking a look at. Which is It's Only Teenage Wasteland #3, which we felt like it left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger last time. And Spy Superb #2, which Spy Superb #1 didn't make any sense to anyone at all.
Right.
Which is why we didn't read it. However, what I'm hearing about Spy Superb #2, it totally like jumps off a cliff and starts running. So just the reviews I'm reading for it are, why wasn't this #1? And really, this should have been #1. So
Okay.
I just wanted to mention those.
Yeah, I remembered us not liking either of those books very much and thinking, let's just go ahead and skip them. We've got other stuff.
Yeah, but like we skipped them for 2 Dynamite books that I couldn't have picked out of a lineup that consisted of those 2 Dynamite books. So,
Yeah.
until I started reading them, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember liking this. So, All right, let's get into it. If I ever Jeff is paying off of Dan's joke.
So we're going to leave me out of this one because I missed it on the lineup. So I didn't read it.
Apparently so did everyone who was involved with the book because, you're starting to make me look bad, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle people.
All right. Well, it sounds like I didn't miss much. So everybody just let me in on what I missed.
The Armageddon game turns out to be it's their play to get rid of all their fans.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, I'm confused. Somebody draw me a map. I'm so lost. At this point, it feels like they're trying to show us everything except the Armageddon game. We're getting everything. We're getting future stuff. I don't think the payoff for this is going to be worth everything we've gone through with this one, if there ever is a payoff.
Yeah, this game has way too much pregame show.
Yeah.
This feels like it's going to be the Kentucky Derby, not the Super Bowl. Where there's 7 hours of buildup and a 5-minute race, and then 7 hours of analysis afterwards.
I agree. And I don't like agreeing in that regard. I thought, I want this to be good. I want it to be everything that everyone wants it to be. And I think what is happening is the chess analogy that this thing has been leaning into has been taking a little too literally. And you essentially, it's like, okay, I'm going to move this pawn. Now you're going to move your pawn, and then you're going to move your pawn, and you're going to move your pawn. And they've been moving little bits. No one's been taking any ground. No one's been taking any pieces. No one has been changing the layout of the board. They've just been kind of staring at each other. And I think the Armageddon game really has had the potential to be great. But I think they've decided that they want to involve so many things and involve so many people that it's just become entirely too cumbersome. Right? An example of how this could have been done better, I've been thinking about this. They had the Avengers versus X-Men series that came out years ago. And what you'd get is you'd get the main Avengers versus X-Men story where the Avengers would actually do something against the X-Men. And the X-Men would do something against the Avengers. And you'd get that. And then you would get A versus X plus. You got these other books that were spin-offs of it that kind of showed you what each character was doing leading up to and around that action sequence. They came after the action. So if you didn't care for the action, you just wouldn't get the associated book. They're doing this backwards. And it's not paying off. And it's disappointing, and I'm sad.
Yeah.
Space Job #1.
I wasn't sure what this book is trying to be, but I love the twist. The whole, let's spend time with this character. Never mind. So this feels like it's kind of like the other people in the Federation. The non-Federation in people. The ones that just fly around and, move stuff and
You know what it felt like to me? It's like if the show The Office took place on a spacecraft in the Federation. Like,
yes.
you have a manager who doesn't know what they're doing. Everyone's kind of inept. You have one person who's kind of got their crap together, but even they're like, I'm only here because I'm here right now. I'm looking for an out. That's really what it did feel like to me in a big way.
Yeah. Wouldn't you have just taken that chair off the bridge?
That was my thought.
No. You gotta have some fun with it.
Although anyone who's ever worked in an office has known about that one broken office chair that just keeps getting rotated around, and you got to get to work early to make sure it's not at your desk so that you can move it to somebody else's desk if it is.
But broken versus lethal.
Well, I mean, broken on Earth versus lethal in space.
Yeah.
It seems like a fair trade.
But if you do that, then you take out the best part of this book.
Wow, that was a harsh take from Jay.
Damn.
I like it.
Yeah.
Look,
Go for it, Jay.
this is a parody of a parody, and the only good thing is what happens to that jerk from the beginning of the book. I didn't like this at all. If this is The Office, this is like how the English feel about the American Office in space.
Whew. See,
Did
I
not
think.
like this one at all.
Go ahead, Sean.
For me, it was just one of those. I'm like, what in the world am I reading? It had its goofy points, but it was one of those. I'm like, all right, can you do something to make me want to continue reading this? And I never really got there. I'm not saying it's terrible by any means. If y'all want to check it out, go for it. But I'm just, it didn't do enough to draw me in. It's like, all right, cool. You did your thing with the chair. The jerk got what he deserved. All right, moving on. I'm going to my next comic.
Yeah, I didn't think it was good, but I don't think it would have made me angry like Jay. His face is red.
Yeah.
He's fuming there, just thinking about this book, and I've never seen that reaction from him.
And it's even more accentuated by the fact that you're wearing a baby blue hat.
I know. It's not even hashtag it's not bad. It's
hashtag I'm red in the face.
That's right.
Yeah.
Somebody tried to be funny and they failed.
Did we get Jenna to check his blood pressure or something? Because I think this is.
We should not get Jenna to do that, because as was exhibited last night on the Hot Take show, when Jenna's blood pressure gets high, you can hear her swearing from rooms away.
Yeah.
It was a pretty fun time. But no, I liked this. But I'm also that guy who liked the first episode of The Office. When everybody's going, this makes no sense. What are we doing? Right. I
never watched The Office.
Sometimes you have to have inanity to make the hilarity make sense. If it isn't for the inane of having to sit in a meeting, or, oh, gee, we need to fix this chair because it keeps killing people, then what I assume will eventually be the comedy of this book wouldn't shine through. Comedy is only funny when you can compare it to tragedy or boringness. So the first book was boring. Let's hope the second book is funny, much like the second episode of The Office, which was hysterical. So, Lyle Hobson says, I'd love a space job. My Arctic job is not as interesting and less cold. I disagree. I think it's colder in space.
I think it is too,
yeah.
But at least you'd have heaters on the spaceship.
Like negative 90-degree weather over there.
Right. And Ed says, I'm glad to see Jay alive and healthy after that earful last night. It's true, but I think that earful was intended at me.
No, she had heard us talking about Civil War, and if you get on that conversation,
it's true.
Be prepared. And she just did her thing. Of course, I didn't pre-warn her. I was like, hey, I'm on live with Kyle, and there's Clint. And it was the greatest 15 seconds you have ever heard in your life.
Yeah,
it really was. It was. If we haven't, be watching for it on social media. If you missed it, it will be the thing that sounds like season 1 of The Osbournes. No, where it's all just one long one long standards and practices beep.
Yeah.
Super fun. All right. Up next, Crochet in Hell.
This was fun. I hadn't read number 1, but this was actually pretty fun. His total nonchalance while he is fighting whoever this is on the cover with him, I forget the name, to me was hysterical, because there she is doing her thing, smacking him around, and he could care less. He's in total control of what he's doing, and it's great. Art was awesome, as is most everything that's in the Hellboy universe.
Mm-hmm.
The ending made no sense to me. If that's something that I missed from issue 1, let me know, but the ending threw me off so bad with what they did. So.
We picked up, yeah, I agree with you. I think the character's nonchalantness was cool. The fact that she's supposed to be Hellboy's sister or half sister, I thought was interesting, and she's very sensitive about that.
Yeah.
And I like that we have a book that's not about Hellboy, but it's about Hellboy. You know? And I love the art in this book.
Yes.
And when we see the little puppet versions at the end, those look great.
It's great, but it's like it threw me off. I was wondering what that was about.
Yeah. So
we'll find out.
Well, I love and I think part of it, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but this is one of those things where if you had read previous volumes of Crochet, the end makes a little more sense, but not a ton. Like, the end, you're like, that's a choice that you've made. But knowing that, previous volumes were Crochet the Deathless makes the ending make a little bit more sense. Not a ton, but a little bit. This is my favorite non-Hellboy book by a mile, because I like the idea of this almost Constantinian character in Crochet that is still somehow more involved in the Hellboy universe than even he knows. And I like the fact that this one relies so heavily on some of that Eastern European mythos that you just don't get unless you're reading Neil Gaiman's American Gods or, 1 or 2 Disney movies. It's just stuff that you don't get regular. So I really like that it leans into that too. This continues to be one of my favorite Mignola books. And Ben Stenbeck is, like everybody else has said, just absolutely crushing it.
Yeah. I think the feeling's kind of unanimous with this one. I dug it. This is one of my favorite from the World of Hellboy books. This character is super dope. I just like him. In the first book, since Sean hadn't read it, he basically just wanted to drink and read books.
Wait, that's what I want to do.
I think that's what most of us want to do. But yeah, I really like these because it introduces me to more characters in this universe. Expands my knowledge of the universe, and like I said, this character is just super cool. I love the thing with the ring. I love the sword. I love the fact that he's just, I don't really care. I'm just going to do this kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy this book.
Cool. Anything else?
No.
Cool. I was worried I missed something while I was almost choking to death. We're good. That's the wrong direction.
But
Sure is.
I've got something interesting. You guys, you know Jim Beard, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, Jim's going to be my guest on Thursday. But he just sent me a text. And he says, did you see that Brian Michael Bendis was invited to the Ant-Man premiere, but he's not allowed to say why? Now, normally when someone gets invited to a premiere, it's because either something they wrote is used as part of the story, or a character they created is used as part of the story. Now, just thinking about all the characters we know in Ant-Man, I can't think of any that was created by Brian Michael Bendis.
Is it possible that Brian Michael Bendis appears in Ant-Man? Because he does look like a Ant-Man villain. Like, have you seen him lately?
You see, he looks like Corey Stoll.
No, but he looks like he could play a different villain in an Ant-Man film.
Yeah.
He could play Egghead, but we got him Elijah Starr, whatever his name is, in the second movie. Ish.
Kinda, yeah. My guess is it's post credits, right? Is it's got to be post credits? They've got to be setting up something.
Well, my thought is that maybe he created a version of Kang.
I don't think he did.
I mean, there's some more recent ones like Victor Timely that I don't know. I haven't gone through and checked out all the versions, but that would make sense if he created one of the more recent Kang variations. He didn't do the Young Avengers. That was Alan Heinberg, right?
Yeah. The only thing I could think of off the top of my head, and this is just from quick scrolling, would be if they're doing the Mr. Griffin story, which was all new, all different, Marvel all new, all different.
Mm-hmm.
Which is your Uncanny Inhumans, your all new, all different Avengers, all new, all different X-Men. Kang is Mr. Griffin in that. And it's you'd almost have to set it up with Loki first. Like, this is something we could talk about in a much bigger way, but essentially in that story, if I remember right, Kang believes that his essence has been splintered across time, rather than it being him who's moving back and forth across time. There are different hymns throughout the timelines. That could be it. They could do some kind of Infinity Countdown thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I don't think Bendis was involved in that. This is... Damn it,
I think the Mr.
Dan.
Griffin thing may be on the right path there.
It's possible. I'm going to send Jim Beard a text when we get off the air and be like, bro, you owe me next time I come see you at work. Like, because this is going to take up my whole night now. All right. Let's get back to it. Vampirella versus Red Sonja.
I've been liking this series a lot because the way it kind of interacts with all these other heroic characters. Because you don't think of Vampirella or Red Sonja as superheroes. And when you think of a book of Vampirella versus Red Sonja, I wouldn't have thought that it would be thrown into a world of superheroes. I thought it would have been set like in Red Sonja's time and Vampirella, versus a vampire, sword and sorcery versus a vampire. But no, we're talking multiverses, and it's like, by way of the MCU in a lot of ways. But it's been a pretty interesting series so far. And it's funny how it almost seems like these two are out of character but it's like they're filtered through their eras. So Vampirella comes across like a demon, and Red Sonja comes across like a barbarian. And it's just kind of an interesting take on them. So I like what they're doing. I can't wait to see how this wraps up.
Yeah, same. I've been really hooked on this one, especially since issue 2. And then where they went with this issue, you finally get some answers as to what's actually going on. And I love it. The art has been consistently really good throughout it, especially with at times when you have as many characters on the page that they do, and yet it still doesn't seem that diluted in any way. They do a really good job of kind of ensemble with the art. And of course, leave it to like the very last panel to where you finally might actually get something that has to do with the title. And I'm very excited to see where they actually conclude this with issue 5. But it's been an amazing story so far. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, this was an exciting issue. Very Vampirella heavy in this one, but great action. And like Sean said, it does answer some questions. But for me, it does leave me with a few more. I can't wait to see how they finish this one up. That's all I got for this one.
3 out of 10 would not continue. Not for me. And I think the book was good. Everything everybody has said is true, but it just, I haven't been high on this title from the outset. And it's just continuing to make me go, okay, show me something. Do something that I'm going to find interesting. And it hasn't. And this issue started heading that direction, but it's too little too late for me. I will say this. The art in this issue and the color choices they made in the palette were absolutely incredible. That was, to me, the redeeming part of this book. I would stop reading and just keep getting the issues to look at the pretty pictures. Like, I'm not kidding. That is the whole reason I would continue with this book. It just isn't for me. There's something about it that just doesn't capture my interest. Same with the way other people's felt about like Space Job, where I'm like, I'm in, and people are like, no, it's kind of that. It's, you have your own taste, and this isn't for me. But pretty pictures. And John is commenting on Red Sonja's abs. Just wait for the next cover. Red Sonja's back.
Yeah, the back.
Same artist, by the way.
I have questions of a practical nature that I need to ask to a female regarding this cover.
I think this might be the first more traditional Red Sonja story that I've read out of everything so far, because I've only read the Vampirella versus Red Sonja and then the one that we just finished up, Immortal Red Sonja. So reading this one, I thought this was actually a really, really good book, even not having read issues 1 and 2. I thought the art really felt the vibe, or fit the vibe of the story. I was just very intrigued between her and the little girl that's in it and what they're dealing with. It seems like they took that kind of classic, you walk into a cult taking over a town story, but you get a very Red Sonja supernatural twist to it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really, really good.
Wait, does that mean that Sean doesn't know that the little girl in there is also Red Sonja?
Spoiler.
No. When you're on the 3rd issue, it's clarification.
It's true.
Yeah. Spoilers is he hasn't read the 3rd issue yet. This is Jim Zub bringing his style of writing into it, and I think he's doing a pretty good job of it. It does feel more like a classic Red Sonja story than most of the other stuff has been lately. Though I'm not quite sure about the twists and turns, and we're seeing a city a giant city where she's not expecting a giant city to be, and if it wasn't for those little moments or the fact that it's Red Sonja with Red Sonja, this would just feel like a normal Red Sonja story. So I'm I'm waiting for the twist to happen because you could forget about it. That's the thing. So, but the art's good, the story's good, the cover's good.
Ed, this is my whole review on this book.
Yeah, there are a lot of titles.
The reason that I couldn't pick out Jim Zub's Red Sonja, which I really like the idea of writing Red Sonja the way Jim Zub does, because it feels like Red Sonja based Dungeons and Dragons, is that there's so many damn Red Sonjas out there right now, Sonja stories, that I can't remember the Stan Lee word they're sticking in front of them to keep them all separate. Do less.
Yeah.
If you did less at this quality, like, I would be all over it. But this wasn't on my pull list until Dan sent it to me, and I want the physical copies of this book because I thought I had it, but I didn't. I had the other Red Sonja. And it just makes it impossible to be a fan when there's 30 different Sonja titles and they all have a different word in front of them, and you got to remember which one it is. Now,
I'm working on my pitch for the unrecognizable Red Sonja.
I bet they'd put it out.
Yeah.
The indistinguishable Red Sonja.
Right. Which one was this now, Red Sonja? That said, Jim Zub is doing a hell of a job writing a Red Sonja story that feels almost like a choose your own adventure book where someone has chosen the adventure for you. Right? You can see the thought processes and why the decisions are being made because Jim tends to write Dungeons and Dragons style writing. So I really am enjoying that. And for Ed, who was commiserating the existence of the scale mail, there is a 1 in 10 Lucio Perillo variant that does not feature that.
So, on that note, been a fan of this one. My only gripe is some of the art does get muddy in some places, but that's it. That's my only gripe about this book. The story makes you think, you know, if I ever met my younger self, would I be able to tolerate myself at that age? Would I want to teach myself things that I know now? Would the younger me even listen? Probably not. Probably not. But at any rate, this has been a good story, and I'm excited to see where they go. Because I want to find out why exactly the younger one is there.
I will say this in terms of relatability: younger me would beat or older me would beat the crap out of younger me, and I think very much that's something that Sonja wants to do. So, all right, Harrower number 1.
Wow. Just wow. This was really, really good. Good mystery, some awesome gore, some awesome kills. There's situations you think you know how it's going to happen, and it's like, nope. Man, just a out of nowhere left turn with some of the things that happen in this book. Really solid first issue. If the team on this can keep it up, this book is going to be one to look out for. I would suggest that anyone who likes supernatural mystery or even Scream to check this one out. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I will say, for whatever reason, this book creeped me out. It was a little freaky, but it was all that in the right way. Like, it's one of those where I literally kind of halfway got chills while I was reading it. It was just so well written, especially in the parts that really required you to, or them to give you that kind of feeling. I thought they did a great job. The character that you see on the cover, anytime that he is in the book, which is, I think is only like twice, he's scary. And I like that. I like the character design. I like the way the story was written. In a weird way, it's almost like Buffy meets Scream, but in a smaller town kind of way. So if I enjoyed this, you definitely have to pick this up. If horror slashers are your thing, this is one of those that I think you should keep an eye on. And the colors that they use in this, I think really helps set that vibe too. And that's one of the reasons why I think that it got to me the way it did.
This is not the type of book I would buy. This is not a type of story I would like. This is definitely Scream, or it had some vibes of Stranger Things.
Han.
Or I Know What You Did Last Summer. That said, this is a really good book. I think it's probably my favorite book of the week, which is saying something because I don't like these kind of stories. This is not my cup of tea, but Justin Jordan has written a really good story here where it's like I actually want to see what happens next. So
Yeah. So when I first saw this cover and saw who wrote it, I immediately emailed Boom Studios going, I need to have Justin Jordan on the air. Because I knew. Like, I could just feel it in my bones that this was going to be a monster book. Like, literally and figuratively. Like, I could just feel it. And he was supposed to be on the air yesterday with Miss Jen, but was suffering from a respiratory infection. So he will be on the air with Miss Jen March 13th, which is the Monday before issue 2 comes out.
Oh, we got to wait that long?
What? Yeah, I know.
Did Justin also do Urban Animals? Is that what it's called?
Justin Jordan has written a ton of great stuff. Spread was one. I don't he wrote Dead Boy Road. Those are the things I first kind of knew him from. Family Trade from Image Comics.
Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else though.
Yeah, I don't see that on the list here. But he's written a bunch of stuff. Really a big fan of Justin Jordan. This book kind of in some ways, you guys keep referencing Scream, but in my in my brain, because of the twist, it almost reminds me of Wednesday. In terms of there's some things that we don't fully understand about who the heroer is and what they do, and about how they are accessed, right? And what their role is in all of this. To me, it feels vaguely like if Scream, sure, met Wednesday, met like that Play the Lottery or one of those, you have to, or that scene in American Gods where they keep putting the kids in the trunk of a car and pushing a car into the lake, the sacrifice to the gods kind of situation. Like, it feels like it has a lot of that going on in some mythology we don't understand, and I'm really excited for it. John and Ed, you'll both super dig it. Yeah. It's super fun, super good. At the B cover, just throwing this out there, the A cover is way less creepy than the B cover. The B cover is mad creepy. All right, move on. Know Your Station number 3. This book features, I think, the title of the next Tinian book. Something is Killing the Billionaires.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this one, just the opening panel, holy hell.
Mm-hmm.
Just the opening panel. This issue for me picked it up a bit from the last one. And now with Bridget is starting to feel more and more human with every issue. So I'm now 1,000% on board with my own theory that the AI did it somehow, some way. It was the AI. I'm still probably wrong, but I'm sticking to that theory. I think the creative team, though, they could have taken just a little bit out of this book. I felt parts were like a little dragged out, but overall, I liked it. I'm thinking once the series is done, I'm probably going to go back and reread it. If you're into really slow burn, because for me it's a really slow burn, mysteries with a bit of sci-fi, I think you should check this out. If you can get past that second issue and get to this one, I think you'll like it.
Yep, kind of there with you. Again, first panel, but it was just like the panel in issue 1 that really took me by surprise and grabbed me. The death scenes in this book in every issue so far have been holy crap. Like, the people that wrote and drew this have a demented sense of humor with some of the images that they've come up for this. I'm kind of the opposite way of you now, Jay. I'm actually really confused as to who it might be outside of the AI, because I was with you, and then for whatever reason, the way the book went with when Marin and what's her name, Elise, kind of started talking and going back and forth, I'm not so sure who or what it is at this point that's actually behind everything. So I just need to get to issue 4, and if issue 4 doesn't really do much to move the story that much more forward, I might be out of it. I can take a slow burn for so long, but if it goes any slower, then I'm out.
I'm with you on that, Sean. I think, this whole episode issue was 3 people talking, or 2 people in an AI talking. Mind you, it moved the story along a lot better than it has been. And if I was going to pick a suspect at this point that I think it is, I think it's our main character, the one trying to solve it, the one who is doing things. But the AI is a good suspect. But the one that set it up to turn off cameras and has memory losses and stuff like that. So I do like we find out that she is totally not trained for the job she has. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens in this issue, but this is the 3rd issue, and it feels like this stuff should have happened already. And they are going very, very, very slow. So I definitely like to see them pick it up a bit.
At least it's not Armageddon game slow.
I don't think anything could be that slow.
I think it's slower. I'm going to be honest.
Armageddon game is like turtle slow.
It's a book about turtles, as opposed to space, which is supposed to be fast, and somehow this is slow. I have a question. Is this book written or produced by Ryan Johnson? Who, can't spell his first name right and takes forever to get to the damn point in the movies and shows he makes? Because that's what this book is. Get to the point. It could have been a 3-issue miniseries. It could have been done. But here we are through issue 3, and we know nothing. We know less than we knew in issue 1. And I don't like knowing less than I used to know. So just tell me that what's happening is that this AI is drugging everyone and giving them hypnotic suggestion, and they're killing the rich people. And let's move on. Fair. But as it is, this book is tedious and boring, and I'm over it.
How do you really feel, Kyle? This seems to be our emotional episode.
Well,
for you, Jay, with the earlier thing, I hated it.
Well, and then Dan and I down here cool as a cucumber.
And part of it for me is that we had a book like Harrower, which was very, very good. We had a book like Crochet, that was very, very good. We had a book like Red Sonja that was very, very good.
And then we
Be
have these
good. Like even if I'm comparing this week to this week, the difference between the best books and the worst books is so vast that it's frustrating. Right? Like if it was a middle of the road book, it would have been, it's fine. But it's taking so damn long to tell me anything. I don't go in for mysteries that don't give me some clues once in a while. So let's move on to Grim Spotlight, Inferno, something else. This book is like that Once Upon a Time at the End of the World where the two people are in the boat and things happen, and then things happen. Number one, that Jenna hated.
So the art was the worst part of this book for me. It was terrible. The story through about the first half up until they actually get into the hotel was a snooze fest. And then we get into the hotel and they kind of kick the action in. I was like, okay, you're kind of a redeeming quality here. It's not that bad. But the art is still just, I can't take it. So I basically kind of half glimpsed at the art just to see what they were doing and then just read the word bubbles and finished it out. That's basically how I can say. Like the story from the last half, pretty decent. Art, not so great. Take it for what you will. I wish the interiors looked more like their covers.
This is the Zenoscope book this week with the girl in the red corset with the tight black pants running around killing creatures. Oh, wait, no. That's the other one. No. They're both that this week. This is Dante, or Mercy Dante, and this is Ralph Tedesco's writing. This is his character he came up with. I usually know the characters pretty well. I don't know much about this character or who the sidekick is that she's running around with. But yeah, it just seemed kind of like a mass story, you know? Like I'm not, at least on the other books, they seem to be going a direction. I don't know what this one's doing. But
it honestly felt like it took halfway through the book before they even said who the main character's name was.
Yeah. I could see that.
I'm going to answer that question for you, Ed Weird. First of all, wow, they put Jonah Hill in this book. That guy looked like Jonah Hill to me. This one kind of felt like an unused Buffy or Angel script that somebody was like, hey, you know what? This will make a good Zenoscope story. No. I liked it. It was a bit better than some of the other Zenoscope books we got. I thought Frank had some decent one-liners. But, you know, it wasn't a crossover event. There wasn't like 18 other characters that do the exact same thing in the book. And the best part, no Cthulhu and no fish people. So I think I liked it just based off that.
You ever make a piece of art in a manic panic because you're on a deadline and you got to get something done? This is that book. I really do think that Ralph just forgot until halfway through to mention the character's name. Because it's like, we got to get this done. We got to have a book. We got to have a book ready. Let me write something real fast. And then his editor eventually went, hey, you don't mention your book until halfway through. Too bad, we're on a deadline. Got to be done. That's what this felt like to me. And that's not always a bad thing. We've gotten some really good books that have felt that way. And we've gotten some really great books that are like that from Zenoscope. This wasn't one of them, but it felt like it felt relatable in that it's clearly this is a deadline project. And
Is it just me? Does it look like she's firing her guns, yet neither of the muzzle flashes are anywhere near the actual guns?
right, it looks like the bullets are above the guns. Right. Is this that movie? What's that movie where they would fire the gun and curve the bullet?
Oh, Wanted.
Yeah. Is this that? Because
I
that
don't know.
wasn't good either.
As I'm staring at this cover, I'm like, those muzzle flashes are nowhere near the actual guns.
What's super funny is I remember Dan, was it Dan that talked about the Robin Hood one where she's standing on the Statue of Liberty's torch?
Right.
Yeah. Dan's good at picking that stuff out.
Well, and I'm looking at both of the other covers. And there is the Igor Lomov cover is probably the best cover. But yeah, the other two can't seem to get bullet physics correct. So there's that. All right. Last thing, other busty girl in a red corset fighting things.
Yeah.
Van Helsing Deadly Academy.
All right. So this should have just been a novel or a short story. The entire book was literally just her giving exposition, talking about how she felt with very little dialogue. And am I the only one that thought that the art started out good and then got significantly worse by the time you got to the end of it? And then you had the weird panel with her father's face at the end of it that was good, but then it went back to the crap art that was there from about the last quarter of it on. That's really what it was. I honestly started paying attention less to what was going on in the art itself, and I just read because she was giving you everything you needed, or the writer was, with her thought bubbles. That's all you need to do is read that and maybe a little more physical description of the actual scene, and you have a pretty decent short story, but it's not a great comic, in my opinion. I don't, and I hate saying that because, as I understand, Van Helsing is actually a really compelling character to read a lot of the time. And this just wasn't one of those for Zenescope for me. So, I mean, take that for what you will, but I really think that if you go into this, try not to look so much at the pictures and just read what she's telling you, because you'll get everything you need there.
I've noticed something with Zenescope, and I don't want to say a specific writer because I'm not sure, but it feels like they believe that there needs to be a certain number of words in a book, because you could have literally done this whole story with a recap page and then silence until the end, and you would have told the same story. And it's a recapping. If you read any of these Van Helsing books, you already know everything that's happening. You're up to date on the character. So a quick recap, like a paragraph, would have gotten you, hey, she's checking out these labs that her dad left all over the country. This is one of the first ones. You could have done this as a silent story, like the classic Larry Hama silent interlude from G.I. Joe. It would have been brilliant. Better, a little more detail in the art, give the artist enough time to do the whole book instead of trying to rush at the end. You could have had something special, but instead they put so much dialogue into the caption boxes that you spend all your time reading that, and it slows the story down. And it's a lot of stuff that, like I said, if you read any of the Van Helsing before, you have a good idea.
So,
and you get through this whole thing, and by the time you get to the end, everything is, she's lost her hat, she's lost her gun, she's lost her coat, everything else. And then she leaves, there's no threat, and she doesn't bother to pick any of that stuff back up, any of her equipment. She just goes out. And that bugged me at the end, that she didn't pick her hat up or pick her up her gun or anything else.
So we got started late, and we are actually out of time. So Jake, do you have did you talk about the Van Helsing book?
No, but
Do you have two words?
make it a novel.
Yeah. No art is my review. Get rid of the art. Be done. All right. So head over to Comic Shop Locator, put in the information, find comic shops near you. Stay tuned for Minute to Skim It, Mint Hunter Comics, and Country Roads the rest of the night. Dan will be back tomorrow.
Hit the like.
Yeah, hit the like button. Dan will be back tomorrow talking about
Critical Role.
crap. Okay. Dan and I will be back tomorrow talking about The Legend of Vox Machina, and he'll be back Thursday with Jim Beard. Check out Triangle of Truth for Jay and Sean, and I will be back next Monday for Hot Takes. So we'll see everybody then. I got to click the buttons so we can get out of here. We'll see you later. Bye.